Hey everybody, welcome to the Head Startup. On today's video, I'm going to be taking you through how to do a capital gains tax return specifically for people selling stocks in Ireland. So capital gains tax is a tax basically that you need to pay on any gains that you made on the sale of any stocks. So the rate in Ireland at the moment is 33%, but you do get an exemption every year of €1,270 on your gains. Also, you get to offset any losses you made in the year against your gains. So some important dates that you need to know for filing your returns and making your payments for capital gains tax. So there's two sets of really important dates. There's the payment dates and there's the filing date. So if you made your sale between the 1st of January and end of November, you have to pay the capital gains tax on the 15th of December. And if you made your sale within the month of December, you have until the 31st of January to make your payment for capital gains tax. And now there's a different dates then for actually filing your return with revenue. So if you made your sale within the year of 2020, you have until the 31st of October in order to file your return. So this is what I'm going to be taking you through in a few moments, how to fill out this return. At the moment, the 2020 form is still not available because obviously it's not due until the 31st of October, but it should come out shortly. So I'm going to be using the 2019 form to explain it. Next, I'm just going to take you through some brief assumptions that I'm going to use when I'm filling out the form. So here we see that I have assumed that I have bought Apple shares and Alibaba shares at the start of the year. So Apple shares cost me 1,000, Alibaba cost me 2,000, so the total cost was 3,000. And then I sold them at the end of the year for 4,500. As you can see here, I made a 2,000 gain on Apple shares and I made a €500 loss on Alibaba. So that's a net chargeable gain of 1,500. But then I have a personal exemption then of 1,270 to net off against the 1,500. So that leaves me with a proper net chargeable gain of 230, and that is taxable then at the 33%. So that means that I have €76 of a bill to pay to the revenue. So now let's go to the form, and if I make any mistakes or anything like that, don't be afraid to call me out. We're all here to learn from each other. Okay, so this is the form that we need to fill out. So this is the CG1 form that's available on revenue. I'll leave a link below in the description. As I said, this is the 2019 version. The 2020 version has not been updated on their website just yet, but I'll take you through the 2019 version now, but it's going to be just the exact same. So page one, this form, it looks a lot worse than it is. It's actually quite simple, but they just make it look a lot more daunting. There's a lot of detail. They probably should have a separate form for each different type of gain for each different type of capital gain, but they've combined it all into one form, so it just looks a little bit more messy than if it was spit out. So page one here, your tax reference number, that is going to be your PPS number, so you can just add that in there, and then your name and address, which is fine. So that's pretty much page one. So they go talk about here now. This is just talking about the dates and the filing dates and your responsibilities really, and then you just need to also on page one just to sign and date it, put in your address, and that's pretty simple. You'll see here an agent's TAIN number. So that is not applicable if you were doing this yourself. So that would be in a case where you're getting a tax advisor to file this form for you. They put in their details. So that's just if revenue have any queries, they would go back to them with any queries. Okay, so now we're on to page number 2, which is the bulk of where the work is done on your form here. So there's 23 points, but a lot of them are non-applicable. So let's go through them step by step now. Top of the page again, you need to just put in your PPS number, and then we'll go straight to point number 1. And so this is where you put in the total sales value that you've made for selling your shares. So earlier on, I said that I sold Alibaba and Apple shares, and the total sales proceeds was €4,500. Put this value into part A here for shares and securities quoted. So quoted means it's quoted on a kind of like a marketplace, so that's what's applicable to us. So I'll just put it in here in the €4,500 there, and then so points 2 to 6 are completely non-applicable. So this is to do with, say, transferring and kind of selling shares between connected people, like people in your family members or stuff like that, or business partners. So we don't have to worry about that at all. We can just leave all those sections blank. So that takes us to section 7. So section 7 here is your chargeable gains in the year before section 604A relief. So don't worry about section 6 604A relief. That is to do with buildings and land, so that is not applicable. But you still need to put in your chargeable gains here in the year in section 7. So I made a gain, as I said earlier here, of €2,000 on Apple. So I'm going to put my gain in there into the self bucket there, because I'm assuming we're just looking at a single person here. And then in section 8, you put in the losses. So I made a loss there on Alibaba of 500. So the €500 is going to go in there into section 8. So again, sections 9 and 10 are completely non-applicable. It's to do with connected persons, and that's section 604, a relief again. So we can leave those blank. So that moves us on to section 11. So this is basically the net between what gains you made and the losses. So I'm going to take my gain that I made on Apple and the loss that I made on Alibaba. So the net of that again was €1,500, and I'm going to put that into section 11 here. So that's the chargeable gains net of allowable losses. So then we move on to section 12, 13, and 14, and they are all to do with basically bringing forward losses from previous years. And if you had, like, there's certain instances where you are able to, if you have any unused losses previously, you can bring them forward. But at the moment, I'm assuming we don't have any, so that means that sections 12, 13, and 14 are completely non-applicable. Then, so section 15 now is where, I'll just scroll down here. So section 15 is where your personal exemption comes in here now. So as I did in section 11, I put in a net chargeable gain of €1,500, but I have a personal exemption of, as it says here, of 1270 that can go against it. So I can use the full amount of that. So I'm going to put in the full exemption amount here in part 15. And so that will then move on to 16. So 16 is basically taking your exemption off the gains that you had, so the net gains you had. So that leaves me, if I take my €1,500 less my 1270, which is what I did my calculation there at the start, that leaves a net gain of €230. So that goes into section 16. And so again, sections 17 and 18 in this instance are completely non-applicable. So 17 is to do with foreign life policies, and 18 is to do with if you have any unused losses in this year forward to the next year. So that's completely non-applicable. So that moves us on to section 19. So then there's 19 and 20 are basically, it depends on when you actually sold your shares. So if you sold your shares between January and November, you go for section 19, and if you sold them in December, you go for section 20. But again, it's quite easy, this section. You just need to put in the net amount of gain that you have that needs to be taxed. So that is basically the gain after you take away your exemption. So my gain after exemption was €230, so I'm going to put in that in section A there. In point 20 is relevant for me because I sold them in December. So in December part A, I'll put in €230 here. And then you also need to fill in the date of disposal here as well at the very bottom. But that's pretty much it. A lot of the other stuff in that section are non-applicable. That moves us on then to section 21. So double taxation relief. So for instance, if you made a sale in a foreign country and the government there took tax off you, and there's a double taxation treaty between Ireland and that country, that's where you would fill in information here. It's highly unlikely that for the shares, I doubt any country would have taken any tax on you when you sold your shares. But you would fill in the information here, what tax you have already paid basically in that country. And then you would also put in your bank details here. So you might be due a refund for that amount. So that's why they're asking for your bank details here also in this section. So for this here, it really is non-applicable. And section 22 then is to do with expression of doubt. So this is if you're unsure if there's anything really technical that's going on basically in your sales. So we have a really straightforward one with shares, but it's more to do with the other types of chargeable gains, like for around property and all these kind of things. So that's completely non-applicable also. So that is pretty much it. Now we're just here down to section 23, which is the last section. This is basically just a summary of what we've already done above. So in part A is the chargeable gains that you've had in the period. So that is going to be the amount less your personal exemption of €230, and then the amount of tax that is chargeable. So that is that amount multiplied by 33%, which for me was €76. So that will go into part B, and then amount payable for this period is the same again, is €76. Then part D is only if you have if you're late filing it, there might be some additional fees that you need to pay, and so you put that into part D. So it might be 5 or 10% due. Then part E is to do with local property tax, not applicable. Part F then is amounts that you've already paid. So as I was saying earlier on, you actually pay the capital gains tax upfront when you make the sale, like a month after. So you have already probably paid this balance. So I've probably, like at this stage when I'm filling this form, I would have already paid €76. So I'm going to put in the €76 here in part F. And then part G then is basically the balance that is left to be paid. So it's going to be basically then. And then you just need to sign it, and that is it. One other thing I should have mentioned earlier on is just in relation to actually paying the tax that is due. You need to actually register with ROS Online, so to start doing that, and that's where you actually go on and make the payment to revenue. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll try and address them down there, and please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see any future content like this. Thanks very much.